One of our Mount Vernon High School educators right here, Jason Jenkins. What is the one thing you're looking forward to during this convocation?
Uh, I mean, just looking forward to seeing a lot of people that I've seen before over the years and seeing new faces. You know, whoever is new, welcome.
How was your summer?
Oh man, it's too good, man. It was too short. You know,
Too short, huh?
it's always like that. No matter how many places you go, you wish you went someplace else. But you know, I enjoyed it. I ain't no complaining on my side.
All right, well, look, we want you to get inside and go and enjoy the convocation. We're looking forward to a great school year, and best of luck to you in your endeavors. Thank you, sir. All right, have a good one. All right.
Hi.
We're live with Monique Bell. Welcome. 2020 convocation, division transformation. What is the one thing you guys are looking for out of the school year this year?
Seeing the students. Beginning of the school year, everybody's all fresh, ready to learn, ready to get back. I'm excited.
What are one of the superstitions or one of the traditions that you have for your opening days?
Not being prepared. But we are ready.
Never prepared, but always ready. That's a great motto to have. 2020, here we come. With another Mount Vernon educator, Mount Vernon bred, Mike Yant right now. A well-traveled man. What was your summer like this year?
Well, my summer, I worked summer school, but in the middle of that, I went to Ghana, West Africa for 2 weeks.
What is one thing you could teach your students from your experience?
One thing I could teach my students is perseverance, because when you go to a land like Ghana, it's a little, the economy is not as good as here. So, but what I learned is that they work hard. They work hard and they go hard to get what they need. So one thing I could bring to the classroom, I could teach them about getting more than they got now, because in the city of Mount Vernon, all our kids don't have all. But sometimes they feel privileged to have all, and I could try to transition some of that energy and that experience to help them step their game up.
2020, we're ready to push forward this vision of transformation. As you see, we have dedicated educators ready and willing to give the students everything that they have. Here we are here with another great Mount Vernon educator, a good friend of mine. We got in trouble together back in elementary school in Lincoln. My boy Peter Spiteri. How was your summer?
It was great, very relaxing, but I'm definitely looking forward to coming back and seeing all our great students.
What are one of the routines that you get ready to do every year before your students show up for the first day?
Well, the most important thing is establishing a routine. It's my second year at Lincoln, so we pretty much established our whole PE program, and the kids are coming in and they're excited and they're looking forward to a great year.
Any new games you got planned for them this year you haven't done yet?
Well, the beauty about phys ed is that there's always new activities and there's always new things that make teaching so exciting, because you don't want to get burnt out, you don't want to get bored with the same thing, so we're always looking for those new and innovative things to share with the kids.
Innovation at its finest. 2020, here we come. Here we are with Jamal Doggett. Families full of educators. What do you got planned this year, new and exciting for your students?
Well, this year is new and exciting. My school theme is Elevate, so we want to elevate the whole child. So we're going to focus a lot on the social emotional growth, plus the academics. We're going to merge the two to move our program forward. So I'm looking forward to an exciting year.
Great. So where do you get your ties from? That's a great tie you have.
Nordstrom, Macy's, Lord & Taylor, Bloomingdale's, anywhere, but I catch the sales.
How do you feel about integrating home economics back into the curriculum?
Yes, we definitely should bring that back into the curriculum. I know they have it on the secondary level, but the elementary level, we need to start bringing those things down in the early grades so they can experience at the early grades. And that's part of educating the whole child. Everything, exposure to STEM, home economics, career and technology, plus the academics altogether.
Life skills will take you further in places in life than you realize. Thank you again for your time. Here we are with Mark Molina, one of the top dogs in Lincoln Elementary School, one of both of my kids' schools, administrator there. How many years have you been in education?
This will be, I believe, my 18th year in education.
How do you keep things fresh?
Every year is a new year, and I personally I have a plan for every year. I want to work on something different to improve my craft every year. That's how I keep myself fresh, keep my teachers fresh, and just the fact that when you love what you do, you actually can't wait for school to start.
That was going to be my next question. What is your why? What is your inspiration for this?
Just serving the children of Mount Vernon, being a product of Mount Vernon. So I feel that coming through this school system, it's my investment in these children, and I want a hand in shaping their future.
What is the one thing you're looking forward to this school year?
Just seeing all our teachers, all our students, just they come in fresh, they come in happy, and it's a new start. And at Lincoln, we're transitioning to 8th grade, so that's also something we're looking forward to because we feel like we keep our babies and we keep that innocence, and they know the Lincoln way. So it's just every year is a fresh start. Just looking forward to seeing all these babies and all their parents and everyone else in the Lincoln community.
Good stuff. Fresh start, fresh energy, new year 2020, here we come. All right, we're here with two administrators from the STEAM Academy. We know that the focus on there is mainly technology-based. What are new things that we could find innovative this year that you haven't implemented in the past years?
Okay, we have a lot of things going on this year. We've got a Project Lead the Way. There's a biomedical class happening. We've got 2 engineering classes, Engineering 1 and Engineering 2, as well as a robotics. These are new things that we're building on. Some from last year, but brand new is the biomedical. And we have the Engineering 2, which is brand new this year as well.
How did you guys get a chance to implement the biomedical program into the curriculum this year?
Well, we ran our first year Project Lead the Way last year, and we did the Engineering 1 program, and it was such a success that we built upon it. We did another Engineering 1. The kids from Engineering 1 will be moving on to Engineering 2. And the biomedical is just a natural add-on to that. So everyone's really excited about it, especially me. So.
One thing you're looking forward to this school year?
I'm looking forward to a very successful school year where our kids are going to learn. This year we have grades 9, 10, and 11. So that's going to be wonderful. We're now a high school in a sense. And I know we're going to have a wonderful time with our students. So I'm really looking forward to the team that we had last year. And we're going to do a great job this year.
Well, we're looking to really collaborate on things early. That's what we're trying to do. We try to get all hands on deck, get as many ideas out on the table as possible, flush out the bad ones, work on what worked well, change up some things that didn't, and just try and get as many opinions as possible and kind of see what works and what doesn't and build from there.
They say it takes a village, and we have part of the village here. 2020, the vision is transformation. Thank you for your time. All right, we're here with the music teacher from Graham Elementary School. What is one of the things that you're going to do new this year that you haven't done with the students before?
Well, actually last year, one of the new things that we did was that we started a musical. So this year, we're actually moving forward with that. And we're hoping that this year it's going to be even better, even bigger, even more spectacular than last year's.
What is the actual musical you guys are going to work on?
Well, we haven't formally announced it yet, but you're going to hear it here first. We're going to do Beauty and the Beast this year.
Beauty and the Beast. So you're going to be doing all the musical scores?
Well, we are going to be working on that again this year, yes. Yes.
How do you stay fresh? What keeps you going? What's your inspiration?
Whew. You know, my students are my inspiration, my family, my friends, the whole community inspires me every day, the parents, everybody.
How long have you been teaching music?
I've been teaching music for about, I think this is my 9th year. Yeah.
So you're a veteran. Well, we have veteran leadership in all the right places. We want to thank you for your help in music and how getting our children well-versed and well-crafted in the future. Thank you.
I want to wish Mount Vernon school year a happy new year. Hopefully everything goes well. My name is Sean Peterson. I'm president of CSCA Unit 9161. And I just want to say thank you and wish everybody a good year. Thanks.
Oh, I think since Dr. Hamilton's been here, the school district has grown by leaps and bounds. I mean, he's done a fantastic job.
We have much fewer schools that are on the SIR list, and so those are things that become very important. And the more our community becomes engaged, I think that the possibilities of a broader literacy on the part of our community becomes greater.
A leader that really focuses on solutions, focusing on directing the schools and educational system in a way that can bring about long-term transformational values to the education of our children.
The 2020 vision has clearly affected all of our lives for the better.
When I think about Dr. Hamilton, I think about somebody who is a consensus builder. I think about somebody who appreciates his teachers and professionals. But as evidence at Mount Vernon High School, when you have a world-class production recognizing our great teachers and faculty members.
When I look at Pelham, when I look at New Rochelle, when I look at Scarsdale, all these other places around, we are now in competition. Okay, so we are now second to none.
Yep. Yes. Sound effect, light on piano first.
Each day I live, I want to be a day to give the best of me. I'm only one, but not alone. My finest day is yet unknown. I broke my heart for every game to taste the sweet. I face the pain. I rise and fall, yet through it all, this much remains. I want one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be, when all of my dreams are a heartbeat away and the answers are all up to me. Give me one moment in time when I'm racing with destiny. Then in that one moment of time, I will feel eternity. I've lived to be the very best. I want it all, no time for less. I've laid the plans, now lay the chance here in my hands. Give me one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could
for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the national anthem and lift every voice and sing. Bring his mic up.
Dawn's early light, what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watch, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs first seen in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please join us in singing the Black National Anthem.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Thank you. You may be seated. Please welcome the principal of the Mount Vernon High School, Mr. Ron Gonzalez.
Good morning. Dr. Hamilton, I graciously accept singing the duet with you next year. I appreciate that. Welcome to 100 Cali. I am Ron Gonzalez, the proud principal of the Mount Vernon High School. And you can clap for that, sure. As the host, it always brings me great pleasure and honor to share just a few words with you. So I'd be remiss if I did not begin by thanking our custodial staff, led by Mr. Franklin Scarlett this morning. I was able to fix my bow tie in the shine off the floors. So thank you, Frank, I appreciate you. So there's a buzz in the air This is our Happy New Year as educators. So that buzz that was in the cafeteria as you greeted each other, sharing your stories about the summer, will soon be replaced with students and their enthusiasm and the stories that they are willing to share, and some that they may not be willing to share that you as the educator will have to pull out of them. So we have a pretty jam-packed lineup of some very important dignitaries and folks that will bring you greetings and wise words. My one word to you, well, 2 words to you for this year is do good. So you will have ample opportunities with students, with staff, with parents, with community members, with each other. You have to make a choice to do good. Sometimes that means humbling ourselves and our egos to do good. But it is incumbent upon all of us to make sure that the generation of students that are coming into these hallways that will soon look and walk down these shiny floors and hallways, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we do good. And so it gives me great pleasure to share a little bit of information with you about George Latimer. He's a 3rd generation Westchester native, was born and raised right here in Mount Vernon, New York. He is a class of 1970 graduate of the Mount Vernon High School and a graduate of Fordham University and NYU. He is no stranger to public service and has a legacy of leadership across Westchester. He has served professionally in marketing and finance positions in several corporations. His collaborative guidance and governance with the Westchester County Board of Legislators, and now as our Westchester County Executive, continues to move the County of Westchester forward. The Mount Vernon City School District is honored that our County Executive could join us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome, once a knight, always a knight, County Executive George Latimer.
Thank you. Thomas Wolfe, the author, once said, "You can't go home again." Thomas Wolfe was wrong. I am very honored to be here in this auditorium that I've been in other times in my life, and particularly because, as the principal said, this September marks 50 years since I began my senior year in Mount Vernon High School. It went fast. I'd like to recognize that we have with us, and there are other dignitaries who will be noticed, but obviously I saw her, my good friend Sean Patterson Howard, who is here, and we're very happy to see her. And there may be other colleagues of mine in elective office that I just can't see from this point, and I'm sure they will be recognized in due time. And I want to recognize a longtime friend of mine who was a graduate of Mount Vernon High School class of '69, so he was starting college by this time, 50 years ago, but a good friend, former general counsel of Fordham University, Tom DiGiulio. Tom? So my words are going to be very short, but hopefully they'll mean something to all of you who are teachers all across this district. As was mentioned, I'm a product of this school district. I went to Grimes Elementary School. Grimes in the house? I went to old Grimes before new Grimes was built. I had to walk up those stairs to the top floor where the auditorium was. And then I went to a school that isn't called this anymore. It's now Thornton, but it was Washington Junior High School when I went there. Then I spent a year in the Davis building before they built the wing here for 9th graders. And I was in Davis, and they called it my year the Annex for 9th graders. And then I came to the new high school on California Road. It was still the new high school because I grew up as a kid. There was Davis and there was Edison as 2 different schools. I was a South Side boy. I grew up on South 3rd and 3rd originally, and then South 14th Avenue. I'm not famous enough for them to honor the house that I grew up in. But if you go down Vista Place and you hit 14th Avenue, it's that tiniest little house next to a big empty lot. That's where my mom and dad were when I was a kid. And as a South Side boy, I knew how you got out of the South Side. In those days, some of these bridges are now closed. There was a 14th Avenue bridge to Bond Street, 11th Avenue Scott Bridge. The 10th Avenue bridge next to Mont Carmel was open in those days. It's a bridge at 6th, one at 5th, Gramerton 4th. The 3rd Avenue bridge was open in those days first. But getting out of the south side of Mount Vernon was more than that. If you had game, and we're not talking baseball or football, we know what sport we're talking about, the religion of Mount Vernon. If you had game, you could play at 4th Street. I'd have game. If you were working up to game, you could play at Hartley Park. Right? I mean, if you lived in Mount Vernon, you know what I'm saying is the God's honest truth. If you didn't have game, they sent you down to Grove Street, Bleecker, South Bleecker. And they'd say to you, boy, I don't care if you can shoot foul shots or pass, you can't play game here in this town. And classmates of ours who had incredible skills made it to the NBA. We hardly understood how good they were when Gus Williams and Ray Williams and Lowe's Moore and Rudy Hackett and Earl Tatum and all these guys of our generation made it. But they were still the few. You have people like Terry Williams, who made it in public relations at a very high level. She was a classmate of ours in this school. I'm a year behind the Westchester County District Attorney who grew and graduated from this high school. He's now the County District Attorney, Tony Scarpino. The Chief Judge of New York State was 3 years behind me in this school, Janet DiFiore. So this school has produced top quality people. But there's only one way to get out of the South Side. And that's what you can help every kid in this district do, and that's through education. My dad was a maintenance man who dropped out of school in 5th grade. My mom worked in a factory, and she dropped out of school in 6th grade. The Depression and the war years were their story, and they were able to be employed and by the sweat of their brow buy that little house on South 14th Avenue and make sure that myself and my sister understood that education could bring us up, could move us up. And I don't know how many of you remember these names, but I do. Rayella B. Healy, Peter DeMontreville, Mercedes Acunto, Doc Randall and the band right down the hallway, Lawrence Smith in history, on and on and on, the teachers that I had, and I can go all the way back, Mrs. Simonson in 1st grade, Mrs. Feller in 3rd grade, Mrs. Ross in 4th grade, Mrs. Lipsius in 6th grade. I remember every one of these teachers because of the impact they made on me as a kid growing up. And the slow process of a little child learning how to read, learning how to comprehend, learning how to speak, learning the basics of math, and then the advanced elements of math. I had a fellow by the name of Phil Leahy for calculus. He graded us on one of those calculus curves. I deserved an F. I think he gave me like a C+ or something, and it got me out of the class. Thank you, Phil. But the bottom line was, that was the path up for all of us. Whether you're a white kid or a black kid, or we called Puerto Rican in those days, Latino kids, that's what we had. That's what we had in this community. And I'm an Italian-Irish kid. And none of us had parents who worked on Wall Street. None of us had parents who were top litigators. We were all in the same kind of setting. We played ball together. We ate at each other's house. My mom would make Italian food. I'd go over to Donald Bailey's house, and they were up from North Carolina, and I'd eat okra and collard greens and stuff. I go, Ma, this is good. But we made it up out of it. And that's the opportunity that you have as teachers. And that's the opportunity that we in the secular society, the mayors of the city and the county executives, can do to help you. We're going to get that memorial field back in shape. Now, I really hoped it would be for this coming graduation. It ain't going to happen that way. We got remediation, all this kind of stuff we got to do. But I plan to sit in the stands when the new memorial field graduates the nights of, I'm going to say 2021. That's our hope. I want to sit there and I want to watch those kids get their diplomas like I got it and you got it at Memorial Field. So there are things that we can do in the city and the county to be helpful for the school district. But you as teachers decided to become professionals for a reason. You loved the act of teaching. You went through education yourself. Those of you who want to get doctorates or master's degrees, you went through a difficult process to get those degrees. It's not easy. They don't hand them out like candy bars. And by achieving that, you now have the challenge with children to help them find a way up and out too. And if Mount Vernon is going to grow where it has to grow, it's going to be because the young people are better educated and more able to take on a productive role in this society. And that will come from what you can do for them in the school years. I'm probably taking too much time, but one more quick anecdote, and then I'll turn the microphone over. For 4 years in my 20s, I managed a baseball team in the Little League. Oh, it was the minor league. It actually was the kids that weren't good enough to make it to the Little League. And we played, and we weren't, you know, the teams I had, we had fun. It was a recreation for these kids. I had one kid all that time that was good enough to make the high school team, and in due time he did. But we taught him the basics of the game, how to work as a team, and so forth. And many times, some of those kids were pretty poor, and they had no functional family life. And mom wasn't there to watch him, dad wasn't there to watch him, no uncle, no aunt, no cousin, nothing. And at the end of the day, they'd be there and they had a long walk home. And so I'd say, hop in the car, I'll drive you home. Did this 3 or 4 times. And you bring the kid to the house and you'd see sort of a dysfunction in his life. I had him for 3 hours to play baseball, but I didn't have him the other 100 and some odd hours of the week. And neither do you. You have X number of hours in the school building. Those of us in the secular society and government, we have to make sure that there's universal pre-K, universal kindergarten, after-school programs everywhere we need it. We need to do that to make this happen. And Mount Vernon can't afford it on Mount Vernon's dime. The state and the county have to put the money in to make it happen. That's how it has to happen. But what I saw in those kids when I took them home is I didn't see just a recreation problem, use their time productively. I saw a domestic violence problem. I saw a nutrition problem. I saw a host of different issues that made up a social set of problems that are not easily dealt with one program or one plan. And I suspect that's what you see. I suspect the kids in your classroom, that's what you're dealing with, which makes your job harder. It's not just getting them up the multiplication table so that they can remember that forever 8 times 8 is 64, no matter how old they get. It's also helping them cope with life that has given them a bad hand of cards. So your role couldn't be more important. Your role is valued and appreciated. And if you don't believe it, then why could a man stand here after 50 years and remember the names of Mercedes Acunto and Rayella B. Healy and Peter de Montrevel and Lawrence Smith and Dr. Abel? God bless you for the work you're going to do. Good luck. We'll be there for you. Go get them nice.
Thank you, County Executive. Welcome home. At this time, I'd like to take an opportunity to welcome any of the school board trustees that may be with us. It's a little dark, but if you can please stand where you are just to be acknowledged, we would appreciate that. Thank you very much, Darcy. And at this time, I'd like to introduce the president of our school board, Miss Arlene Torres.
Okay. Good morning. On behalf of the Board of Education, we welcome you to a new academic year filled with the promise of growth, exploration, and achievement. As you engage your students throughout the school day, be it in guiding an essay assignment, explaining a math formula, or describing a chemical reaction, remember that words are powerful. Our words matter. I ask that you use your words to foster a growth mindset, to inspire curiosity, to build up your students and each other, and to transform the minds and hearts of those you have been entrusted to teach and to serve. On behalf of the board, we thank each of you for your presence here today and throughout our new academic year. We wish each of you a productive, enriching, and successful academic year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. At this time, I'd like to introduce our second leader in charge of our district, Dr. Jeff Gorman, Deputy Superintendent of Schools.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, when I say we are, you say limitless. We are We are. Awesome. Let's keep it. All the power is right here. So before we get going, I'd like to introduce members of our advisory team to the superintendent. Please stand when I call your name. Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Denise Gagny-Kerpusky. Assistant Superintendent for School Improvement, Dr. Wavelin Bennett-Conroy. Assistant Superintendent for Business, Mr. Ken Silver. Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Claytisha Walden. Associate Superintendent for Student Services, Dr. Veronica Smith. Associate Superintendent for Human Resources, Marcy Tiggs. Director of Facilities, Mr. Michael Policio. Director of Special Education, Dr. Felicia Gaon. Director of Pre-K, Dr. Gail Y. Wallace. Director of Technology, Mr. Joseph McGrath. Counsel to the board, Mr. Cliff Christoph. The clerk of the board, Mr. Richard McCormick. And executive assistant to the superintendent, Donna Jackson. Mr. Silver, please join me here to introduce our dignitaries.
All right, sugar muffin. Hey. Good morning. Oh, I didn't know the teleprompter. I had my script with me. So we are pleased this morning to have Acting Mayor Andre Wallace, who will bring greetings on behalf of the City Council. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. All right, all the teachers, I can't even hardly see out there. Can I see some of the teachers raise their hands? All right, all right. I just want to say congratulations to all the teachers who do an excellent job in our city with our children. This year, we want to make sure that everything is going to work smoothly. We're looking forward to working along with the school system to make sure that everything that you have this year will be supplied to you guys. We have already started striping the lines in front of all our schools. We're making sure that we're adding new no left turn signs, okay, no turn on red signs in a lot of areas. We studied that for the last month to make sure that everything is going to be perfect for our children. We already started a zero tolerance, okay, initiative around our schools. There will be no speeding, no U-turns, no wrong turns. Okay. Tomorrow you're gonna see a lot of police presence out in front of a lot of schools and around. You won't see the unmarked cars, but they will be there. We will be looking for anybody speeding or breaking the law. Our children is priority number one. I'm gonna say that one more time. Our children is priority number one. This is our investment, this is our future, okay? So we have to make sure that they have everything that they need. Also, we did have a book bag giveaway over the weekend in Brush Park. We still have more book bags to go and to give out. So if there is any child that does not have the tools that they need to perform, please let us know, because we're going to be partnering with you to make sure that every child has what they need and everyone is in a position to learn and be able to be safe in a very safe environment. So with that being said, I'm not going to take up much more of your time, but you will see us out there. I'll be outside in front of schools tomorrow to make sure that the police and everybody's in place. We will be launching that initiative. So you'll see a lot of us, including the commissioner and deputy commissioner of police, out there making sure that the presence is right. We will also be supporting our crossing guards to make sure that they are okay also. And we want to make sure that we give them actually little pads to write down anybody comes speeding through the area. Just capture that license plate. So once again, I want to say congratulations. Thank you to the teachers that work so hard to take care of our jewels of tomorrow and to make sure that our kids learn in a safe environment, are protected, and grow the way we want them to grow, because they have to exceed what we have done. And that is the common goal that we all should have as adults working with children. All right, so thank you so much. God bless. Love you all. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are pleased to have some dignitaries with us this morning. Assemblyman Pretlow, Gary Pretlow, will you stand, please? Okay. New York State Regent and former Interim Superintendent Judith Johnson. Okay. We're going to introduce the head of our bargaining units, Corinne D'Amato for the Teachers Union, Ron Gonzalez, Jenny Casino, and Sean Peterson. Please stand to be recognized. Thank you. Will all former school board trustees please stand to be recognized? And members of the City Council, if you're here, please stand to be recognized. Okay, this thing's going faster than I am. Members of the PTA, the Youth Bureau, the Recreation Department, and Family Services, community churches, if you're here, please stand. And last but certainly not least, this is our 4th year with our SROs, our school resource officers. The SROs provide a positive image of law enforcement in an effort to help young people make constructive choices in their lives. Please show your appreciation. Please, if you're here, SROs, please stand. We are very grateful. Dr. Gorman.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. We are. Cool. Oh, it's going. This is always the best part of the convocation for me, to highlight the amazing staff who dedicate their time and talents to our children. Well, the 562 staff members who have served this district for 10 years, a decade, please stand up and be recognized. We are. Will the 250 plus staff who have served with us for 20 years please stand? We are. Let's celebrate those staff members who have served for 30 years with us. And now, let us celebrate those amazing individuals who have served our children for 40 years and more. We are. And now, welcome back to the stage our Superintendent of Schools and a good friend of mine, Dr. Kenneth R. Hamilton.
Thank you, sir. So good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the 2019-2020 school year. You've already heard all the acknowledgments about the extraordinary people who help make our district such a great place to be. And I have to acknowledge our PTA also for their exceptional work. If you would thank you so much for all that you do. Lynn Clay is leading our district PTA. And before I forget, at the end of our presentation, Karina is asking for all MVFT members to remain in the auditorium. So, transformation. That's the word that sticks out in most of our minds as I reflect back on the last 5 years at the helm of the Mount Vernon City School District. I invite you to join me on a retrospective journey from the cockpit of the Flight 2020. In fact, I remember coming to my interviews here in Mount Vernon in the spring of 2014 and meeting with the board trustees, particularly Elias Gutzeit. And the word that Elias kept using was transformation. Now, in my time as a teacher and administrator, I have worked in all sorts of schools and educational settings, from affluent communities, transitional group home for children anticipating adoption, halfway houses. My career has taken me through all sorts of locals. And after reviewing the data and meeting with stakeholders and trustees, I knew that Mount Vernon was the next stop on my journey. What I did not know at that time was the profound impact that this school system would have on me professionally and personally. As many of you know, I arrived here in Mount Vernon following a year of turbulent times at the administrative level. I heard terrible stories about backstabbing, infighting at the highest levels of the organization. Dysfunctionality was like I had never heard before. Stories that manifested themselves in disaffected communities, poor test scores, low morale, and virtually no trust and confidence in the leadership of our schools. As I visited schools and drove around the community, I saw neglected schools, broken sidewalks and windows, cracked pavement, garbage thrown about. It was as if no one cared. I thought to myself that if this was the public part of our schools, the part that the public could see, then what is it that they can't see? What was behind our doors? At first, I was able to only read about our low test scores and attendance rates. I heard about the high suspension rates and the lack of order in our schools. Board meetings were described to me as the Mount Vernon reality show. As I drove around the streets of Mount Vernon, I saw parents playing ball with their children in the streets. I saw kids getting pizza down at Johnny's Pizza. I saw what you would see anywhere else in the world, families going about their business, making the best of what they had and enjoying life. These kids were no different than kids in Pelham, Bronxville, Cherry Hill, or Monroe, places I had worked before. They were just babies who had no idea of how adversity and how this dysfunctionality would impact their lives for years to come. I thought to myself, how do I rebuild a school system? How do we go about convincing a depleted staff and community that change and transformation was around the corner, that change that they so desperately needed was possible, that things could and would be different? So far I've used a lot of I's, a lot of I in the last few minutes of this presentation, because I wanted to touch upon my reflections as I entered into Mount Vernon. One of the first tasks I had was to assemble a team that was willing and capable of tackling the systemic issues that plagued our school district. We had a system of schools that we needed to change into a school system. Today is my 6th convocation ceremony here at the helm of this incredible school district. And the progress and changes that have taken place over the last 5 years are nothing short of incredible. In the first convocation, I asked this assembly, will you have my back? Remember that? And how many of you have come up to me in the hallways or seen me in the buildings and said, I have your back? And I have to say with full confidence that you have indeed had my back. One of the first projects we took up was the renovation of the Mount Vernon swimming pool. I was astonished during my first building tour to enter this incredible room to find a long since forgotten hole in the ground that used to purport to be a pool. I thought to myself, why would this community, or any community for that matter, let such a beautiful piece of real estate fall dormant and fall into such disrepair for so long? I knew right away that the pool had to be restored. I promised this community during the first few months of 2015 that the pool would be restored and renovated. I am pleased to say that the Mount Vernon swimming pool opened its door to the community this summer. This spring, we began offering swim classes as part of our PE curriculum. We have trained our students to be lifeguards, and the summer this pool has employed some 200 visitors. Many of our students who have gone through the training program have been able to secure jobs at local swimming pools and amusement parks because they had that certification. Even more exciting, the Mount Vernon City School District is proud to announce that we will once again have a swim team in place this year. I have to thank Patricia Ryan and Dr. Claytisha Walden for making this happen. We were able to complete this project with the help of Assemblyman Gary Pretlow. Is Assemblyman Pretlow here this morning? Well, in his absence, thank you, thank you, thank you. The pool was just the beginning. We knew from the start that there would never be enough grants or money in the general budget in order to make the changes that were needed in order to move the district forward. So as early as May 2015, the board and I began discussions about a bond proposition that would jumpstart the repairs and changes that needed to take place in our schools to make them 21st century learning institutions. That June, we began discussing the scope of the bond and how to ensure that the bond wasn't just about facilities, but creating a perfect union between high-quality, research-based educational programs and ideal instructional space that we needed in order to move the needle. So eventually, we landed on a $108 million bond referendum that would support a 2020 vision. What made this bond unique was that the facilities upgrades and the improvements were directly related to a vision and a plan for systemic academic improvements and changes. In March of 2016, the community overwhelmingly supported this bond referendum by nearly 4-to-1 approval. Now, we had our vision, we had the plan, we had the support of the community, so we knew we better deliver on our promises or we would lose the confidence of our community and fail another generation of children. We began by tackling low-hanging facilities improvements across the district. More often than not, schools, especially community schools, are the gem of the community in which they reside. They are often the centerpiece of their neighborhoods, a place where children and families can gather. That was not the case in Mount Vernon just 5 years ago. The first phase of the 2020 vision aimed to change that perception. So here's a recap of that leg of the journey. Pennington School before and after. Our fields, our classrooms, the outside structure. Traphagen School, some cosmetic things were done there to make it more attractive and appeasing. People draw an image when they drive by our schools and see this level of disrepair. Edward Williams, a school that was in dire need of a facelift. Mount Vernon High School, some of the classrooms, programs that we brought back to the district through the CTE initiative, making Mount Vernon a comprehensive high school with vocational technical offerings, and we will be launching an IB program. They have been in a year and a half of planning to bring IB into Mount Vernon High School. Our kitchen has been upgraded, the community room, greenhouse, creating greater opportunities for our students and creating a sense of pride for our staff. The Ed Center, if you ride by that building today, it looks like a place where professional people are working to deliver services to our students in our community. The STEAM Academy, which has become the crown jewel, had fallen into disrepair. And today, the library is up and ready to receive students. I'm actually getting chills as I watch this video. Our boys basketball team, as you know, is second to none, and so we refurbished our gym. We made some upgrades on some of our outdoor courts as well, so that our children would be proud of where they play and welcome visiting teams into our district. We have created schools and facilities that our students and families could be proud to walk in. Just some minor improvements have gone a long way of changing the perception of our schools and community. Students and staff have a sense of school pride that was missing for far too long. Once work on the outside of the buildings began, we were able to focus on what was happening beyond that front door. So what were the things that we could not see? Now, we talked about our basketball team. They were literally invited to play around the world, from China to Hawaii. And fellows are top when it comes to county championships and state titles. Our basketball program is second to none, yet they played in a gymnasium that was riddled with neglect. This is the before and the after. Today, our championship athletes have a facility that rivals that almost each of our neighboring schools have asked to be a part of. Not every gym in Westchester County looks like this. We've also realized that in order to continue to have world-class athletes at the secondary level, we needed to start focusing on developing our young scholars into these extraordinary athletes. We have taken a stance on refurbing gymnasiums in our elementary schools as well. Lincoln Gym. A lot of folks know about Mount Vernon's prolific basketball program, but our athletic program runs deeper than basketball. From football and soccer to tennis, baseball, and track, we are committed to making sure each of our teams have state-of-the-art facilities to practice and play on. Raj has gone on to gain national recognition, and he is a graduate of Mount Vernon. And gone are the days of our second-class fields and facilities, and this fall will mark the first season our football and soccer teams will play home games on a quality turf field. Our track team will once again be able to host regional competitions on our brand new running track. And let's not forget the incredible field of arts and entertainment that Mount Vernon is known for. As I'm sure you know, Mount Vernon has been home to a number of celebrities and musicians for years. Yet across the district, many of our auditoriums and performance spaces have been nothing more than storage rooms. I remember my first holiday concert at Edward Williams' feet. I was mortified to be the superintendent of schools. I was seated in an auditorium seat that was supposed to be stationary, but it was actually like a rocking chair. Families couldn't even sit next to each other because there were so many broken seats. They were yelling across the hall, across the row, to communicate with someone they had come to. In some regards, it was almost like being in a third world country. But today, Edward Williams enjoys a new auditorium. The 2020 vision, it called for a complete rehab of some of our oldest and most neglected auditoriums. Through the 2016 bond, we were able to restore it to its original glory, the Thornton Auditorium, so that we may again showcase our students and talents and their interest in the performing arts. So let's go to Thornton and look at our before and after pictures. As I mentioned earlier, what has made this 2020 vision and the bond referendum unique was that it expressly was tied to an academic vision. This is what happens when you don't have a tech rehearsal. So we have revamped our vision and unified our curriculum to ensure that our students have the supports in place to be successful. And the research is clear. I don't know what y'all doing right now. Okay, so here's Thornton. We hosted our first performance at Thornton this spring, and we anticipate a robust performing arts program that will bring talent back. And we will be having a special dedication of this auditorium next month. The research is clear that the sooner school starts, move on to our pre-K slides. Thank you. Research is clear that the sooner school starts for our students, the more likely they are to graduate. And we know that all too often families in this community are struggling to provide early intervention services and education to our students. Not through lack of desire or care, but through a lack of knowledge or means. No longer could we let our youngest learners miss out on opportunities that would help them close the gap and put them on par with some of our surrounding affluent communities. Our pre-K classrooms are indeed state-of-the-art. And that is why we have established universal full-day pre-K across our district. The success of this has resulted in providing access to early education opportunities to some of our most vulnerable students. Today, this program has been so successful, we offer it in 8 sites in our district. In fact, the response was so overwhelming that we have engaged 5 community-based organizations to partner with us to host our youngest learners. For years, study after study has shown us that our junior high and middle school models did not work for many of our students. They lacked the appropriate foundation, supports, and sustainability to ensure student success, and to enable our students to be able to focus in those most critical years on their social, emotional, and academic development. We understood early on that in our community, we needed a new approach to middle-level education. Our children were hemorrhaging between 6th and 7th grade when we arrived. We knew we had to change that, and with the support of the Board of Trustees, we were able to make it happen. The answer to some of these challenges was moving from a fractured school structure to reconfiguring our schools to a pre-K through 8 configuration, enforcing the neighborhood concept for our schools, and maximizing opportunities for our students and minimizing the transitions that they had to face while simultaneously impacting a culture of care. So these are some of the pictures of our pre-K through 8 reconfiguration of our neighborhood schools. Graham School has this extraordinary new entrance where parents and students will be welcomed. But expanding our neighborhood schools to accommodate 7th and 8th grade students was more than just adding curriculum and teachers. We had to ensure that our students had the tools available to them to be successful. So to that end, we started renovating our buildings, upgrading our bathrooms, and making our facilities such that they would accommodate a rigorous curriculum, particularly in the sciences. This included the construction of these state-of-the-art science labs to support a 7th and 8th grade curriculum. The last phase of the 2020 vision, and arguably the most critical, was the establishment of 3 theme-based high schools of choice. This gave our students the opportunity to make a selection about where they wanted to have their high school experience. When our students are surrounded with options at the secondary level, we are able to eliminate their desire to go off into private or parochial schools, but we needed to develop a plan in order to keep our students from leaving our school system, ensure that the academic rigor was competitive for post-secondary opportunities. So our 3 theme-based high schools did just that. The Performing Arts and Visual Magnet High School is a nod to the entertainment industry with such rich historical and cultural ties to the city of Mount Vernon. Through the establishment of the program, we are again providing an outlet for our students to have an opportunity to flourish in the arts. Still in its infancy, though, this program has already garnered so much attention, including several awards, countless nominations, and it has been recognized as the premier arts program in Westchester County. The once forgotten Wood Auditorium at Thornton High School has really become an extraordinary journey to watch it go from this dilapidated, neglected facility to this state-of-the-art place with new seats to state-of-the-art sound and lighting. The auditorium is an appropriate home for our talented students to produce truly amazing productions, from The Lion King to The Wiz. Our musicals are blowing away competition in terms of quality and productions. Our students have been nominated and won very competitive arts in the performing arts industry. Across town, the Mount Vernon STEAM Academy is creating buzz around its innovative project-based curriculum. This program allows students to tackle real issues facing our community, such as blight and zombie homes, from an intellectual and a practical standpoint. And for the first time in Mount Vernon history, we have rolled out a one-to-one device initiative for STEAM students. At the end of this phase, each student attending the STEAM high school will have their own device and learn from a digital platform that eliminates the reliance on many outdated textbooks. And our STEAM Academy is indeed preparing our students for post-secondary opportunities like never before. And now Mount Vernon High School, what can I say? For so long, the high school has been perceived as a place less than ideal to learn. To those critics, we say no more. Mount Vernon High School is in the midst of a renaissance. We are closely working with the administration and the staff to reestablish the career and technical education program. And let's face it, not every student will go to college. There are so many jobs out there now that our students need to gain entry-level experience in order to go into the workforce and earn a decent living. We need to get it out of our heads that we are only preparing students for college, but we have to instill in them those skills that will make them successful if they choose to go into the military, the workforce, some civil service position in life. But ultimately, there is nothing wrong with children electing to go right into the workforce. But we have to ensure they have the skills. Our CTE department offers a comprehensive curriculum to provide our students with skills and tools that will enable them to enter the workforce after graduation, earn a solid competitive salary from automotive technology to Cisco systems. We are expanding our program offerings every year. These programs are providing alternative routes to graduation and creating careers for them that they have not been privy to before. Our course offerings between 2014 and 2019 has almost doubled. This year, we will once again be able to offer classes in culinary arts following a complete rehab of our culinary education suite. This will also be the first year that our 9th graders will begin preparing for the prestigious IB program that I mentioned earlier. This program will place our students on academic par with their peers across Westchester County. We are crossing the bridge into rigor by providing our students with AVID strategies. AVID, if you are not familiar, stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. For all 9th graders, moving forward, every 9th grade student will have the same AVID teacher with them for 4 consecutive years. It will allow them to compete for more scholarships and academic opportunities like never before. So in addition to getting our kids in college, getting those high ST scores, for those who choose to take that route, they will now have access to scholarships that they did not have access to before. And we're working to help our students reduce their college debt. With so many changes taking place in our schools, the question is often asked, is it paying off? Are we making changes that are having the positive impact on our students? Well, let's look at some of our data. In 2014, most of our schools were identified as failing schools, according to New York State Department of Education. And we are moving the dial. Our students and our schools are performing better than they were 5 years ago. Each year, we are making steady and sustainable gains in our test scores and our graduation rates. But we cannot get idle and think that our work is done. Our most recent test scores tell us that we have a long way to go. Are we moving fast enough? Of course not. Is there more to be done? Absolutely. But we are headed in the right direction, and I applaud you for your work, your tireless effort, and kudos to our principals, our assistant principals, our content administrators, our deans, that entire administrative staff, including our special ed department, who help move the needle on student achievement. We are making improvements like never before, and these improvements are necessary for long-term success. So now let's take a look at some of our test data. We have 2 reward schools in our district. Lincoln School, stand up and be acknowledged. Benjamin Turner, where are you? I'm sorry, Rebecca Turner, where are you? PVAM/Thornton, where are you? They have the largest proficiency rating at our 8th grade level, with 73% of our students being proficient. Some of our largest gangs in ELA in grades 3 through 8. Grimes School, give yourselves a round of applause. Columbus School, where are you? Columbus. And Traphagen. Biggest gains in math, grades 3 through 8. Columbus School again. Parker, Mrs. Dweck, where are you? And again, Traphagen School. I had a conversation with Mrs. Quinones last year, and we were talking about her test scores, and she said, give me a year. And she did it. Carol, kudos to you. Well done. Now I got to have that conversation with a few more people, too. Our ELA trends in comparison to 2013-14 school year, we are steady climbing and making progress. In math, again, our trends are upward. We're learning from some of our curriculum adjustments, some of our instructional practices, some of the curriculum changes. We are getting there. We have to be patient and stay the course because we are making the right choices. All too often, we give up on people because our intended results or desired outcomes don't arrive as quickly as we want them to. Our graduation rates show us that we are on the right track. These results do not happen without great leadership. I want to remind you, and to be frank, remind myself that change is not a destination, but it's a journey. And I have to say to you that we are really looking very carefully at where we are in comparison to our growth, because there were some schools that we'll talk about later that actually made slight decreases in their performance on the standardized assessments. That has to change. And while we know the standardized assessments are not the only way to measure what's happening in our schools, we have to understand that at the end of the day, it becomes our test for validity, because that's what the community, what the public, and our surrounding constituents are looking at. But I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to look at some of our fiscal changes as well. For the last few minutes, I've been talking about the changes that have taken place and the improvements that we have made and the steps we have taken to change the culture and perception in our district. And we have done so while at the same time holding the line on spending, increasing our reserves, and improving our credit rating. Our credit rating is higher than it has ever been. And this is important because when we need to borrow, we are able to borrow at lower rates. Those lower rates impact how long it takes to pay back bonds, and how long it takes to pay back bonds directly impact our local taxpayer. So for 4 out of the 5 years, our budget has resulted in no increase in tax levy, and that is unheard of in educational circles. So kudos to Mr. Silver, Ken Silver, and the business office for their efforts, and our budget committee, led by the Board of Trustees, to monitor and maintain integrity around our fiscal responsibility. And none of this transformation would have happened without the dedication and commitment of our Board of Trustees. They have been instrumental in allowing this administration to implement the changes necessary. They have been supportive, they have been encouraging, and they have monitored the governance of our district with detail, precision, and consistency. This has been our greatest asset in this community, and they have been our greatest advocates and supporters of the 2020 vision. And so lastly, I want to applaud you, the staff and the teachers and the administrators who are in the schools and classrooms each day ensuring that the vision is implemented with fidelity. You are the keys to this puzzle, and without your commitment and buy-in, the vision is nothing more than a bunch of words on paper. So what do we do next? What's next for us? What is our post-2020 vision going to look like? One of the things we have to begin to look at now is moving into those courageous conversations to deal with our issues of bias, to look at how we are teaching a culturally relevant curriculum, one that is diverse and represents our student body. And that is what it's going to take to move the needle and create a long-lasting, sustainable change in our district. The work is not easy, but it must be done. The hard part is continuing the growth and change. Our children make up a sea of varied cultures and experiences, and we are likewise a collection of our life and experiences, and thus, so are our biases. Our keynote this morning, Dr. Christopher Emdin. He is going to dive deeper into the concept and lay the groundwork for the next phase of our transition. Traditional teaching and learning, or as he likes to call it, the British colonialism traditions, are not going to work for our 21st century students. We are educating children in 2019 in much the same way we delivered instruction when we were in school. Our world has changed dramatically and society has evolved, and we know now better than ever that we have to do more to make our curriculum relevant in our global age in order to ensure that our learners who have vastly different life and experiences are welcomed, valued, and appreciated. This conversation today may make you a little uncomfortable, but I implore you to embrace it, listen with an open mind. We initially had no plans to have a keynote today, but after the cabinet and our administrative body heard this presentation, they insisted that we invite Dr. Emdin back to our district. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you one of the most profound, prolific people I have ever heard, Dr. Chris Emdin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So I don't have much time to share with you today, unfortunately. And that's like to my chagrin already before I even get started. But before I get into this talk, I sat backstage and I listened to, the mayor speak, I listened to the superintendent speak, and I watched these amazing slides that signaled the transformations of school buildings and the grounds and the gyms and watching how things have moved from one space to the other aesthetically is something that I found so profound. And I was able to see some of the statistics related to the improvements around academics that in many ways are a function of what happens in the environment. Everybody knows if you create the proper environment for young folks, they feel comfortable enough to make the leap to be able to engage academically. And as I thought about all those things, and I thought about Mount Vernon's sort of move to start reimagining how they're being branded in the area here or beyond, the only thing that struck me is this, and I'll just be honest, we cannot have environmental change, aesthetic change, building change, if we don't have a change on the approach to pedagogy. No matter what you do with the environment of the classroom, or no matter what you do with the kind of vision or mission you have for the work, if the teaching and learning remains archaic, or it replicates the kind of teaching and learning that happened prior to the physical improvement changes, there will be caps on the growth you're gonna have. And when you begin from this important point, I start realizing I was invited here today to deliver a speech for a convocation. So I went online, as all trusty, smart people did, or do, and I Googled convocation. And so I will read my Google. And by the way, this is also a little bit of information for you about the pedagogy, right? Young folks will go online to study or learn about anything that they have a desire or passion to learn. If you don't create the passion to learn it, they're not gonna go using digital platforms to be able to do it. Now here's the thing. we all think that our roles are primarily charged with introducing them to the content area. But I make the argument that your role is to introduce them to the sexiness. Y'all think I'm playing this morning, I'm not. Of the content area. If you make the subject area appealing, they will use a device to go learn on their own. Then they will come back to you with questions about the limitations of what they found on a digital platform. But if you're boring them with the content in the classroom, they don't have the passion to go explore it digitally. So I went online, like the kids do, and I Googled convocation. I shall read to you what I discovered. Wikipedia, a convocation, from the Latin convocare, meaning to call, come together. A translation of the Greek, ecclesia, is a group of people formally assembled for a specific purpose, mostly ecclesiastical or academic. That was intriguing to me, because as a gathering of educators, it would make logical sense that we were coming together for a special purpose that is academic. Yes? But then I'm like, wait, at the root of convocation is that it is both ecclesiastical or academic. I would make the argument that in the best case scenario, it is concurrently ecclesiastical and academic. So, if we are coming together today for a convocation, and historically all our work has been around a gathering to discuss what is academic without a consideration of the traditions that are ecclesiastical in nature, as we come together to go spark off the school year, I will make the argument that even historically up until this point, we've been half-stepping. If your previous convocations are striking at the academic without a consideration of the ecclesiastical traditions of how to move an agenda forward, you are only doing half the work. So today, we ain't gonna do no more half the work. Today, what we will do is have a critical conversation, ladies and gentlemen, about what is the necessary next dimension after you've changed the environment of the school and the school building, and that part requires every educator. And when I say educator, I'm talking about school teachers, I'm talking about district personnel and staff. I'm talking about every adult who's working with young folks to recognize that our goal to move the agenda forward beyond where we've been is both an academic enterprise and exercise, but also one that does an ecclesiastical work, which is striking at the spirit of the young folks. Now, somebody in here is saying, Spirit, I didn't sign up to come to church. I'm not here to get converted. Suspend your prejudgment for the sake of the young folks. Because I'm telling you, the limitations of the academic potential of young folks is based on the educators' unwillingness to engage in striking them at their spirit. Genius gets triggered when the soul is stirred. Unless the soul is stirred, you have a superficial rendering of the academic work of the individual. Anyone in this world who's reached the height of their potential in any area of study, irregardless of their faith, also has a belief system in something that's beyond the superficial, which is the content. Now, Dr. Emdin, now we're getting ecclesiastical. What are you talking about? I'm saying to you, Mount Vernon, unless you engage in a faith-based and Pentecostal pedagogy, I don't care how many prettier buildings you got, you ain't gonna get nothing done. Now, some may be really offended by my use of words like ain't. The colloquial nature of my discourse, I wanna let you know that what I'm trying to do for you is model for you the type of pedagogy you need to engage in. Look, I got mad degrees, fam. I got... If the conversation is about credential, I assure you I'm credentialed. I have the ability to deliver a convocation presentation that is merely academic. I could give you citations and what Dewey said and what Vygotsky may have said and what Piaget may have said. And I'm telling you that it is intentional. It is a political act for me to engage and draw from my more, dare I say, ratchet traditions in order to model for you what it's, because let me tell you something. Somebody in here right now is moved simply by the use of a discourse that is outside of the discourse that you've heard at previous convocations. My work in modeling for you is to say, to strike at the ecclesiastical notion of the convocation requires a drawing from a very different linguistic tradition. The linguistic tradition is what stirs you up inside and makes you say, wait, this is different. Now, if I'm doing it for you right now and you feeling something, and let me let you, I'm tapped in, I know you feeling something. If you're feeling something, I'm telling you that that's what you need in your classroom. Your superintendent has done the structural work. The structural work is required. Without order, nothing exists. He's constructed the order to have things exist. Now they're existing. But without chaos, nothing evolves. And where you are is at a moment of evolution. Now, when I say chaos, folks get offended by chaos. Chaos is a perspective-based phenomenon. What is chaotic to one is divine order for others. What is uncomfortable for some, based on vantage point, might be the signal for others. When I'm saying chaos, I'm not saying have the building just run however. I'm saying have the emotions running on 100. When the emotions start rummaging through beyond the norm, that kind of chaotic emotional state is necessary. Listen, the opposite of love is never hate. The opposite of love is always apathy. We have a generation of young folks who are so apathetic about, they're right now like, yo, I gotta go back, fam, I don't even wanna go. It's not, it's really about, they're feeling as though I don't care. No one is gonna perform academically if they're approaching the work from a place of an absence of care. And look, I can give you an academic rundown. And if you guys are interested in an academic rundown, we got the folks and the crew that could come and give you that stuff. I'm telling you, before I could do any academic work, y'all, we got to reimagine this thing. And I'm not saying this just to stir you up. I want to strike you at your emotion. Listen, those statistics, no shade, Superintendent, right? None at all. But the statistical improvements that we've seen thus far, that we should celebrate, are not striking enough. No. And this is not an offense. This is not offense. When we get to the point where we are over celebrating 6 points, when your baby, and look, 6 points, I'm not saying it's not in the right, I hope y'all feel my heart, right? I'm not trying to, we're moving, yes, but the moving is too damn slow, y'all. I'm sorry. And it'll remain slow unless we do something different. Are y'all with me? Now, the question then becomes, why are we not doing something different? And here's where folks are going to get mad. No, it's not about being mad. It's about being truthful. We are not moving to where we need to go because we are so occupied with the respectability politics around teaching and learning. And respectability politics is a concept or construct where folks feel as though if it's academic, it's got to be formal. If it's high rigor, it's got to feel like rigor mortis. If the kids are doing well, they got to look. And what I'm telling you is I have gone to places where young folks are performing on the highest levels in this nation. And the difference between those babies and your babies is that those young people have freedom, a belief in who they are, and and they are completely departed from respectability politics. Some of y'all in here right now, man. I only been out here for 10 minutes. You done look to the left, look to the right, are we allowed to clap? Is that all right? This is rather raw. And you can't, let me tell you something, you can't even get out your own head to hear something. And let me tell you something, if you can't get out your own head to hear something, how are you going to get out of your own soul to do something? Look, the message today is about this. And I was charged to talk about implicit bias, causes, effects, and prevention. And I done scrapped that talk, and I decided to go with, and I shared with the leaders recently, towards a faith-based and Pentecostal hip-hop pedagogy, towards an emancipation through education for the next generation. We changed slides, ignore the typos or whatever else, it just got caught off. Now, a faith-based begins with, what is faith? Can somebody tell me what is faith? Oh, somebody knows. Say it louder. The substance of things hoped for and... Okay, now, listen, now just to be clear, this is not a denominational conversation. You know, because listen, people are always going to find a reason not to do before they think. He said faith, this is separation of church and state. I know what's in your head. Faith outside of denomination is the same definition. It is, say it again. And now, Mount Vernon, here's the question. You're an educator. You're going into the classroom. What do you hope for? When is the last PD? When was the last summer preparation where you focused on what you hope for the babies that you are in charge of when you go back to school in a couple days? This ain't about standards or benchmarks. I'm talking about hope. Now, there's no rubric for hope. Y'all don't want to, there's no checkbox, there's no Charlotte Danielson, there's no observational phenomena, principles. When you go in, you're not gonna be like, I don't see any evidence of hope. Like you, that's a thing. You can't touch it, but it's a thing. And I have to ask you, school leaders, have a conversation with your staff. Staff members have a conversations with each other. Teachers have a conversations with young people about what do you hope for. We like, it's bell-to-bell instruction. Let's teach them math, social studies, arts, a new STEAM school, all that. When was the last? Look, these young folks can't remember a time where anybody's asked them what they hope for. And when you begin a pedagogical enterprise with a conversation about what your mission, vision, and hope is, you ignite the soul. Then as an educator, you start showing them how teaching them math triggers their hope. If you don't have a vantage point to begin from, then your pedagogy is on quicksand. I don't even want to, I'm trying to go somewhere and I don't know if y'all, the root of the instruction is flawed. So your outcomes will always be flawed. You see, you could test a young person on what they know academically and content-wise, and your data will always be flawed because you forgot to account for the variable of interrogating what they hope for. And then the last part of that definition is the evidence of what? This is the hard part for y'all. You're going to go into that classroom, and you're going to see that kid that last year caused problems. I taught for 12 years. I was an AP for a year. I researched educational spaces across the world. I know where you're at. And he comes in and you're like, oh, here we go. Some of y'all have already had nightmares. When the AP mailed you the class list. Can we be real with each other? But here's the thing about that faith definition and that reality. I'm not trying to erase your reality. Your reality comes from a legitimate place. This ain't a demonizing of educators. All that you are is a function of what you've known and seen. I ain't judging you for that. But I'm judging you on what happens next. Because faith is the evidence of things not seen. That young person, you may not have seen that young person do what's the right thing. Last year's test scores may not have indicated that this year's test scores will reflect what it's supposed to be. But it is essential for you to have a belief in things not seen. What do you have faith in? Everybody operates on faith. Y'all got faith right now. You are sitting on fabric and plastic. And you had a hot girl summer, so you was putting on the, you know, you were unconcerned with the dietary restrictions, perhaps. You know what I'm saying? But you sat in that chair with a belief that it would hold you up. Y'all don't want to talk today. What kind of work do we do to transfer our faith in young folks? Look, let me get a little geeky for a minute. Scientifically, there's a phenomenon called the Rosenthal effect or the Golem effect. Anyone heard of this? And essentially what it says is a human being will live up to or down to whatever expectations they feel in a social space. There have been research studies done on young folks who were literally identified as being non-academic whatsoever. And back in the days, they would throw those kids in a school down the hallway. And some educator convinced those young folks that you were down the hallway, not because they wanted to get rid of you, but because you were special and genius and brilliant. And then they started asking, what do you hope to be when you grow up? And the young folks who were like on the track outside of education started saying, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this, I want to be that. And he said, you know what? I know. It's almost like we knew that's what you hoped for. That's why you're all in this special class. And the young folks were like, nah, there's been no evidence to support that. Then the educators started activating their faith. Y'all with me? Now, the study didn't talk about faith because we ain't supposed to talk about faith. But that's what was going on. And before long, those young folks started surpassing the expectations of their counterparts in the high-achieving classes because the educators had a belief system that they were bigger than what they were. Now, I'm going to get a little heavy for y'all if it's okay. Scientifically, the Rosenthal effect supports the evidence that if we focus on the hope of young folks and engage in a faith-based pedagogy, there are academic outcomes. But scientifically, we also know about mirror neurons. So I'm an antibiochemist by training before the education work. Mirror neurons essentially will say that an individual will reflect back. There are neurons firing in the brain of the individual based on what is projected by the individual in front of them. So for example, y'all ever been somewhere and somebody starts yawning? And what happens? And we're like, well, how does this happen? Is this a social phenomenon? No, it's actually a scientific phenomenon. By virtue of the yawn of the one individual, your body knows what the reaction to yawning is. And literally, neurons are firing in your body to match the yawn energy of the yawn person. Y'all with me? What if I told you that your faith and hope is transferable? Not just in a Convocation-esque conversation. That is a scientific phenomenon that says when you are prepared to showcase faith and hope in young folks outside of established traditions, that they will give you back what you give them. So if you believe that part, here's the next part. You know why we ain't been doing it so far? You know why you're struggling to do it at this point? Because you ain't done the self-work yet to understand that you need to do the self-work to prepare yourself to have faith. Listen, you got broken educators breaking young people. Hurt teachers hurting children. So the work I'm saying is now, some of y'all are rejecting. I feel it. You're just rejecting everything. Oh, faith. Oh, I can't. Oh, I can't. You're leading with the I can't because you've been broken. And listen, y'all, I'm going to go somewhere today. Listen, my friend, today we will heal your brokenness because not because I want to, not because it's cute to do, but because it is essential for this generation of young folks. Do you understand me? If you can't get up out your comfort zone, they can't win. And everybody in here who signed up to be an educator in this school district, you thought you signed up for a job, you are now in a calling. I don't care what your intention was. You might have intended to come in here to get a check. But now you are signed up to do mission and vision work. And if it's not for you, listen, if you are unwilling to inspire, then your decision should be to retire. If you are mad at soul work, you shouldn't have no work. Look, and let me tell you something, from a place of honesty, I understand why. Can you indulge me if I go somewhere? Listen. Look, when I went through high school, I didn't have a good time at it. People ask me all the time, like, how do you know what you know about young folks? And like, I know what I know because I was where they are. I went through a school. I knew I was smart. You know how I knew I was smart? Yo, back in the days, for me, it was, me and Mount Vernon, so we talk about Heavy D and the Boys. Like, if an album dropped on Monday, I knew all songs plus ad-libs, who produced it by Wednesday. Y'all with me? Now here's the thing. I might have gone to school on Tuesday, and they asked me about the halogens on the periodic table. I'm like, I don't know, they out there. So I knew I had something, but the space didn't trigger me. Y'all with me? So I went through high school, barely graduated, stumbled out of there almost. When I say stumbled, like literally stumbled out. There's some folks right now who are stumbling, and you are their stumbling block. So, and you don't see that you're the block, you just see the stumble. Why are you tripping all over the place? It's you. You the one. So I'm out here, I barely made it out. My parents shipped me out. I don't know if you guys know any Southern roots, a lot of Caribbean folks out here. You know what you do all the time. If he starts going crazy, so they gave me to that. So I left. And I came back. And when I came back, I didn't have the same environment around me, but I was still the same person because no one had interrogated what the core of it was. So I came back in October, and September is where school starts. So now I'm back, not officially graduated, not going to college, just sitting there. And my mom said, you ain't staying here. Like, you got to do something. Like, either you're working or you're going to figure it out. So I went to Lehman College, right up the block from me. A lot of Lehman grads, that's what's up. And I went to Lehman and I said, listen, I graduated from high school. They said, what high school? It was a good high school. I went to Brooklyn Tech. I said, Brooklyn Tech. So they were like, Tech in the building? That's what's up. When dope school. So when I said Tech, they said, oh, he must be smart. They didn't know the brokenness that came out of there. So they said, okay, just register for classes and then bring your information in. So I registered for classes, but I ain't had no information to bring in. Are y'all with me or not? Are we learning from this story this morning? So now I'm taking classes and I start getting these letters. Please bring in your high school diploma, graduation information as soon as possible. And I'm like, eh. Then they're like, or unless you'll be withdrawn from classes. I was like, oh man, something got to give. So I ran, studied for like 2 weeks straight, got a GED, went back. I was like, here's my GED. Then the lady... So the lady in the office said, I thought you said you graduated from Tech. I said, no. I said, I went to Tech. It's a lot of lessons in here. The kid who underachieved in high school, once he had a goal that was tangible, would put the work in 2 weeks. Listen, the kid who failed your class last year could pass and surpass any expectations if there's a mission and vision and goal at the end of it that is tangible, that only gets triggered when you trigger the hope. So now I go into Lehman, I'm taking these classes. Freshman year, I'm doing all right. Sophomore year, I walk into a science lab. I'll never forget this lady's name, Liesl Jones. And she came in and said, anybody want to volunteer in my science lab to do some research? And I'm like, fam, I'm just here because my mother told me I had to do something. Somebody volunteering at your lab. And nobody else volunteered. Second week, she comes back. You know what, guys? If you volunteer in my lab, you will get extra credit towards your final grade. So I raised my hand. But guess what that was? Before I even tested my intelligence, I walked into the place with a perception that I was going to need the extra credit. Are y'all with me? When a person comes into a space first with a point of vulnerability as the entry point, you know that something's wrong. That's the young folks coming to you right now. They're coming in there broken before you even say anything. So what's your first job? You got to build them up. This is hard. Well, Dr. Emdin, they gotta pass the regents at the end of the academic year. We can't be up here building kids up when we've got regents curriculum to follow. And I'm telling you, build them up. What if I told you that an ecclesiastical notion of convocation begins with the notion of a call and response as the anchor to trigger a sense of self? You know that these young folks ain't had nobody tell them they smart? That you're brilliant beyond measure by virtue of your existence? That if you come from a place of poverty, you have the grit and resilience to overcome any obstacle, and I don't have to teach you grit. Can we talk about that? Everybody, we got to teach them to have grit. We got to teach them to be able to. How you going to teach somebody something they had? They got their own version of grit. You're trying to teach them a bootleg version of grit. They're going to reject your bootleg version in favor of their version. Your job is not to teach them the grit. You got to activate the grit that exists. But you can't activate the grit that exists if you have no faith. See? That it has value. Yes? So now I walk into Liesl Jones's lab and I said, I'm just here for the extra credit. I felt like Marshawn Lynch. I'm only here. You know why I'm here? I'm like, you know why I'm here? I'm here for the extra credit. What do you want me to do? So she puts me in front of these materials and we're slicing cells, etc. I didn't know I was going to go here today. Sometimes you got to listen. Sometimes you got to listen. Teachers, y'all with me? Sometimes you just got to listen. Put your radars up and go where you need to go, not where you want to go. Now, don't make this, well, Dr. Emdin said we just need to go where we need to go. Ain't no more lesson planning. You need the lesson plan, okay? But you also know when you need to leave the lesson plan. Yes? So I'm in the lab and we working, and we slicing up cells, and the lab's on the etiology of schizophrenia, and we're studying schizophrenics and the effects of their work, et cetera. And the first thing that happened to me was I started realizing, like, this is actually kind of cool. Like, I can actually do this. Like, this is all right. But I had a chip on my shoulder. So as we're working one day in the lab, I have my gear on, and Dr. Jones walked up to me and said, Chris, I think you should wear a lab coat. And I'm like, a lab coat? I'm out here doing the science. It's not affecting my science. Like, I'm just, so you biased against my dress? Like, you biased against, like, you just mad because I'm swagged up and you're not? Like, this is real talk, y'all. So I start creating a reason why she don't like me because of what I've experienced prior. And then she said, Chris, no, it really wasn't about your clothes. It's actually really nice. I wanted you to wear the lab coat so you don't mess up your clothes, because... And I said, oh, so it wasn't like a lab uniform that everybody had to do to be complicit with the plans of the established power structure? She said, no. Just put on a lab coat so you don't get your clothes dirty. And I was like, wow. Y'all follow me? You're going to go into class tomorrow, hear this speech, see the stats, be ready to go. And when you start going, the kid's going to be like, you don't like me because I'm black. They hate the black people too, so white folks, you're gonna hear it. And all of a sudden, you're gonna get riled up, and you have to understand, that is just a person showcasing their previous experiences. You match their previous experiences with ignoring where that come from and showing them a new possibility. Are y'all with me? Yep. So now I'm in a lab with a lab coat, feeling right. And I remember once, she was showing us video of folks who suffered from schizophrenia. And I grew up in Brooklyn, the Bronx, the hood. There's the hood and there's the hood. And we all have, we all have our spaces we come from. And I was watching these folks who had schizophrenia, and I said, oh my God, they act like custies. Now, a lot of you won't get the reference, so I'll indulge. Now listen to this. Just because you don't initially get the reference doesn't mean I'm gonna judge you. I'm not gonna view your inability to recognize the story about the custies as an achievement issue. I will instead value you and introduce you to the context where it comes from. Take with that what you're going to. So we were talking, and I'm like, and I didn't realize I said it out loud. She said, Chris, what did you say? And I said, nothing. She said, no, you made an observation. You said it out loud. And here I am saying, oh my gosh, I'm gonna mess up. So like custies from the hood, 80s, 90s hood, custies is short for customers. Customers are folks who are drug addicted. Drug addicted because they were addicted to crack cocaine. There's a lot of issues around that. I'm just giving you the So in my head, I saw the schizophrenics, and they were acting like folks who were drug addicted that I had seen in years past. So I said, the schizophrenics are acting like custies. So what are you cut? Well, these are people who are addicted to drugs. So wow, that's such a fascinating line of inquiry. Perhaps you could draw the connections between prolonged drug use and folks who naturally have schizophrenia. Study that. I said, what? So you mean my observations of cussies had scientific merit? And from that point, y'all, I majored in every science they had at that. I triple majored with a degree in physical anthropology, biology, and chemistry. Now, this is not a narrative of me. It's a narrative of us. We can collectively make the shifts we need to for young folks with simply recognizing who they are, where they are, what their gifts are, connecting those gifts to academic content, and opening up a new world of possibilities. It's not that hard. The only impediment to an effective pedagogy is your tethering to respectability and your ego. It ain't about you. It's a hard thing for some of us to go through because your only identity is that you made it through school to teach. That's the only thing you got that gives you any worth. So when you're out there in front of the young folks, you're broken yourself. So you're like, I struggled. You should struggle too. Y'all think I'm playing? It sounds like a simple thing. What if I told you that's the core and root of most of the issues? Everybody's talking about these standards, these benchmarks, these this, that, and I think those things are important. And you forgot the fact that you're just dealing with people who mad. Folks of color who went through school, didn't like school, struggled through it. Now you're a teacher, and you're the same teacher you hated. Folks who are not of color, who came through a tradition and a way and a norm of how things are, and now they're in a school with a majority of black and brown kids, and you think they supposed to be like you. And if they're not like you, now you mad. Listen, I'm an equal opportunity truth teller. If you're an educator of color who's replicating the struggles that you experienced, you've got to go heal from those struggles and be better. Don't be who you hated. Be who you needed. If you're not an educator of color and you come from traditions and norms that are monolithic in nature, and this is the way things have been going through your life, recognize that your life ain't their life, and you got to learn to be about life. And you've got to be able to reimagine that. And I'm going to close with this, because my time is going. Dang it, I knew this was going to happen. Listen, y'all. Yes. I'm going to close you what I shared with the admins, which is new stuff, but I think we need it. And I'm saying I'm signing up. We working together now. Absolutely, absolutely. We'll get this done. We got to get it done. It's too important. I want you to understand a new theory going forward that we all going to carry. Y'all with me? It's called the theory of ratchetemic identity. Everybody say ratchetemic. Now, it's not in your Webster's. Yet. Man, say that word. Talk about some faith. And it is the notion that young folks can be equally as ratchet. Y'all know what I mean by ratchet for the record? Because some folks are like completely, it's like he wants them to be mechanical wretches. No, not that ratchet. Like, ask a neighbor. You could be equally as ratchet and academic. That young folks don't have to perform intelligence. They have to showcase intelligence. And if it looks like, sounds like, behaves like a way that makes you uncomfortable, you've got to suspend your discomfort and utilize that to connect them to the academics. Now, I'm not going to say leave them there. Then you start showing them the long game, which is that now that you know that you are a genius in your ratchetness, let me introduce you to how you learn how to play the game. Listen, look, we got to talk about real stuff, y'all. Some of y'all are here because you played the game. Your people know you. They seen you all summer. Now you back and you the teacher and you mean. Who were you on that boat? I'm talking to somebody here. Turned all the way up. And what I'm saying to you is that person didn't mean that you were not academically successful. And the next frontier for the generations we have, y'all, and this is honest and truthful, particularly for the young folks in this district in particular, we've taught them that they have to choose. So they choose ratchet. And they think that academic is away from them. And then society tells them that ratchet is all these things that it really isn't. Your loudness doesn't mean that you're throwing up gang signs. You're just loud. So they're chasing something that's not who they are because we've never showed them a model of what they could be. So a ratchetemic identity begins with you modeling it. You can't teach a young person to be ratchetemic if you're only academic. You can't teach somebody that going to college makes sense if you ain't got no swag. Y'all think I'm dead serious. And some of us are like, oh, I can't do this ratchet thing. It's just not me. A lot of y'all are further away from ratchet than you think you are. But guess what? Everybody is ratchet. The great social critic and public intellectual Lil Boozy once said, everybody got a little ratchet in them. Young folks connect to authenticity. Everybody is teaching with their representative. They want you to be you and smart. They don't want you to be like them. They want you to be like you. And then show them that I'm like me and I accept you to be like you. And then we can reimagine how we navigate this world to collectively be better on a Regents, on a test score, on a college essay, on a SAT. But it begins with us first. In closing, hope, faith, truth, and ratchetemics. Have an amazing academic year. Love.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Chris Emdin. Now you see why I said we've got to bring this man back. This is where we are going in our district. This is what the post-2020 vision has to be. Dealing with our biases, getting our curriculum to a point where it is culturally relevant, and making certain that we are indeed addressing the needs of our students. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge our parent liaisons who are here this morning. County Legislator Lyndon Williams has joined us. And one of our huge faith-based leaders and friend and confidant, Bishop Edwards, is with us this morning. So ladies and gentlemen, in closing, as you go out and you tackle the issues before us for this 2019-2020 school year, go equipped with your enthusiasm. If you have not been to a black church before, you have been baptized today. I have no doubt in my mind that we can turn the tide. And I want to acknowledge you, and I want to celebrate you, and I want to encourage you, because we are trending in the right direction. But Chris was right. These little gains that we experienced, we can talk about it here because we family. It ain't that impressive. It's good that we're trending in the right direction, but let us not be fooled about where we need to go for the sake of all children. God bless you, thank you, and have an amazing school year.